before we started this conversations, when we were discussing how this dialogue might unfold, I remember sharing with you why I launched this series in the first place. So when big changes happen in our life, I think they give us a valuable opportunity to reflect, to ask ourselves what should change and what is still worth preserving. And earlier we talked about the internet and social media, and even though they weren't widely available when we were growing up. And I had a couple of cassette tape and a cassette player, just like the ones you mentioned before. And I didn't even get my first cell phone until I was 16, 17, 18 years old. Around then. And today they have become such an essential part of our lives. So technological advancement has opened up so many possibilities for music education, allowing performances and ideas to travel across continents instantly, just like what we are doing right now. And yet,
I still believe nothing can replace the interactions between people in person.
And honestly, I believe we can learn so much from them, from the internet. So perhaps the key is to embrace them with gratitude. So has this period pushed you to develop any unexpected skills?
This is an interesting question. Well, I had always been interested in audio software to do editing for recordings. And in fact, for many of my albums, especially since, let's say, between 2010 and 2020, I was doing all of the editing myself and then just simply sending the master to the label for release. And just because I liked it. But then one thing that I had never had time to learn was how to edit video. And I learned that during the pandemic because I found myself with more time. During the pandemic, I did a lot of things that I didn't have time for before or after. So I taught myself how to use software to make videos, to edit them, and to also I found time to finally write those transcriptions that I was talking to you about, some of which have been published. And that took time. And then I took the time to learn how to play these super difficult transcriptions so that I could perform it. And so that was actually, I know that it sounds bad to say something like that because so many people suffered it. And I don't mean to discount or disregard their suffering. But for me, the pandemic was actually not a bad period of time because I recognize I'm lucky because no member of my family fell ill during that time. I know some people lost some relatives, and it was not only horrible because they lost them, but even more so because they couldn't be with them. Some people were taken to hospital and the family couldn't even get to see them or say goodbye. So I know this is terrible. I know I was lucky. But I had 2 years where I couldn't go anywhere and I stayed home. And I enjoyed my house. I enjoyed my family. I enjoyed everything I was doing every day. I was financially secure. So that's another thing that I cannot ignore. Many people were not. So I know I was privileged. But I'm saying, given all that, during the pandemic, it was really 2 years of intense discovery and learning and different than any other time up until then in my life. I don't think I've ever spent 2 years without going anywhere,
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I truly believe that no skills you learn can't even be a waste to you as a musician, only an asset. And I actually learned so many practical skills. For video editing, I don't use Final Cut, but another software called Filmora. I even started learning language. And maybe Yeah, and maybe Italian should be next.
All right. So which one did you learn?
German.
Oh, you learned German. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then Italian definitely should be next.
Yes, absolutely. And I also feel that technology has truly globalized our community in many ways. It has become a major driving force behind the continued development of education, including music educations, just like you mentioned earlier with
Stereo.
it allows us to connect and share musical experience across continents in ways that would have been unimaginable before.
Absolutely.
And music education can now reach students in the most remote corners of the world. And they can't actively participate in real time. But there's one important thing I have to emphasize. Human interactions, especially live in-person interactions, can never be replaced. So no matter how advanced technology it becomes, the essence of music education still lies in the connections between the people.
It's the same as the concerts. Nothing can replace a live performance. You can have the best technology, the best videos, the best, it used to be CDs. Now it's mostly very high resolution files that you can stream, but nothing replaces the live performance. It is like almost a spiritual experience, and it can be exciting or it can be more sobering, but it's definitely about the ability to reach out and to connect even without speaking words, but just to be experiencing something beautiful all at the same time, something powerful all at the same time in the same place. And like you say, for education is the same. I think I already mentioned before, forgive me if I have and I am repeating myself from our previous conversation, but I do believe I mentioned that during the pandemic, for the first 3 months, I was forced to teach online because our school, thank God, was only closed for 3 months. Then it reopened. So students went home and we continued to teach online. But after that, I refused to teach online. I have never taught online. In these years, I've been asked hundreds of times. I could have made, honestly, so much money and so easily without traveling anywhere. But I prefer to travel 10,000 kilometers and go to China, go to Korea, go to Europe and meet students in person and teach there because we can connect and I can be more effective in my teaching and they can learn more effectively. I believe very strongly in that.
Absolutely. And Antonio, as the head of the piano department at Cleveland Institute of Music, how do you envision education evolving in the future? Has CIM experimented with similar online courses or projects, or are there any ongoing projects right now?
No. We do have, we do want to be, we do live in the present time and we are projecting ourselves in the future, but we can't really switch to online courses in what we do because we are not teaching theoretical things only. There is a theory department and it's super important. And even then, I would be curious to hear what the professors have to say because I believe even they would say that online is not that good. But for us,
yes.
For us, online is impossible. It cannot be. So we do have a distance learning lab, but this is only for occasional master classes. Like, for example, a few years ago, I taught a master class at the Royal College in London, and the professor of the Royal College taught a master class to my students, and we didn't move. I stayed in Cleveland, he stayed in London. And we taught our students online, and we had the technology to very, very fast internet to be able to do it effectively. And it's okay when you have that super expensive equipment. But normally, even then with the super expensive equipment, it is still not as good as live. But for some times when it's not economically viable to have this, people coming from overseas all the time, then to experience some of their teaching, it's okay one time, but it cannot be systematic.
Yes, absolutely. But once again, I feel that in-person teaching can never be truly replaced because the most precious element is the human connection. And when we talk about CIM, I would love to ask, what do you look for in an audition?
Oh, I mean, when we, as a group of professors, because the entire piano faculty, of course, sits in the audition or listens to audition. Sometimes we do allow students who, for whatever reason, don't have the chance to travel to Cleveland. We allow them to come and play for us, to record their audition. And then we listen to them from a video. It's not the same thing, but sometimes it's inevitable. But I also travel to China, for example, and record auditions in Nanjing and in Shenyang. And those are live auditions. They're not really recorded auditions. Yes, there is a video recording because my colleagues will listen to the video, but the pianist is playing live. It's like a live performance. There is no chance to do things over. You know, it's not like when you make a recording, if you don't like it, you can make it again. But in this case, you cannot. So I personally prefer to hear a student in a live audition, whether it's playing in front of a camera and just me, or whether it's playing in front of the entire faculty, because you can tell how they interact, how they communicate much better. But what I look for, and what I think my colleagues look for, although each of us may have different ideas, is somebody who shares, they have good foundation. Because remember, we're talking about college and we're talking about a top school. So they have to have a good foundation, good basic technique, good healthy habits, but then also natural talent, sensibility towards music, reacting to music, to harmony, to colors, imagination, ability to build a narrative with the music they're playing so that they can tell a story. All of this, even though the audition may be only 10 minutes, but you can tell right away. And so this is what we look for. It's a combination, it's a package, you know? And then that charisma, that ability, that inner energy, ability to communicate.
Absolutely. And you mentioned to me before that CIM is interested in expanding the international partnership. Would you be willing to share more about this? What kind of global collaboration is CIM helping to build in the future?
Well, I mean, I can talk about the present because the things are evolving in the present time, and we have many. Well, CIM already has, or either continuing or occasional partnerships with other schools, such as the University of Vienna, the Conservatoire in Paris, the Royal Academy of Denmark, and many other schools. But we also try to build, we have memorandum of understanding with Chinese conservatories in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Guangzhou, in Shenyang. And we went around visiting. Last May, for example, the president of CIM, Paul Hogel, myself, and one of our most wonderful alumni, a cellist by the name Daniel Kaller, who happens to be the son of violin professors Ilya and Olga Kaller, who also teach at CIM. Daniel Kaller is a cellist who studied at CIM, but he is now a member of the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. And so he joined us on this trip. And he taught masterclasses to cellists. I taught masterclasses to pianists. And then we joined forces and we played duo. And we also asked Chinese musicians to join us, and we played trios with them. So it was nice to share concerts just for friendship and alliance building, partnership, and we discussed possibility of American students going to China to learn the Chinese methods and also some more about Chinese traditional music, especially for composers to learn a little bit more about traditional Chinese music. And then we continued to talk about Chinese students going to study in America, which of course many already do. And so that was, we went to Paul Hogel, Daniel Kahler, and I. We went to Beijing to both Central and China Conservatory. We went to Shanghai Conservatory. We went to Xinghai Conservatory. And so then right now I am working on a partnership with the government of the Dominican Republic. This is why I was there the last time, because the Dominican Republic is a country where there is a lot of musical talent, but their educational system is a little bit unstructured, and they are very aware of this. They want to make it better. They're working from within to make it better. And they asked professional advice from the outside to assist and help. And so I did that with the piano department of the National Conservatory and from the elementary school up to college. So we are changing the curriculum, strengthening it, and they are creating a college for performance because they did not have it. They just have right now high school, that's it. And when you finish high school, there is nothing, no degree. And so you either have to go abroad or you have to switch to another major. And that's a pity. So right now, we are building that. And then we are also building an alliance, a partnership with CIM. I already am teaching a lot of masterclasses to the students there, and the teachers there all come and listen to see if we share the same ideas or if I have different ideas that I can contribute. And then my colleagues from CIM will also join me when I return there at the end of May. There will be a professor of voice, a professor of cello, and a professor of violin. And again, we will also play recital together, and we will also invite a local professor to play with us. So we will play a nice concert of solo and chamber music. And so that's the way we build alliance and support. And then also the government of the Dominican Republic and CIM share the goal to support Dominican students. So CIM will offer an amount of scholarship. The Dominican government will offer the rest so that students can go study without the burden of all of the expenses of the education in America, which are quite considerable.
So would it be similar to an exchange student model?
No, because this is something different. An exchange student is a student who is already studying there and comes from, let's say, 1 year to take the same path, and then those credits will be recognized in their school. But we are talking about something different. We're talking about two things: making their own school stronger there so that students can stay, if they choose, until the end of their bachelor's degree, which now doesn't exist, and get a bachelor's degree at an excellent level at home. Then decide if they want to go abroad for a master's, for example. Another thing is strengthening their pre-college so that when they get to the bachelor's, if they want to come to CIM, we have an alliance that, again, financially, both CIM and the Dominican government will support those students to come study. So if they have the level to get into the school, they don't have to worry about expending so much money. So it's a little bit different than the exchange student model. We do have that, but we have it with other schools.
Okay.
If you are looking for a place where you can feel that you can learn a lot, but you can also enjoy the atmosphere, the air, the food, the culture, the architecture, a place where people are so friendly,